Hello and welcome to another Office 365 Hours. My name is Christian Buckley. I'm the Brand Alliance Director here at AvePoint and a Microsoft MVP and Regional Director. And I am joined today by Robert Hedblom, a Cloud and Data Center Management MVP and a Principal with sumNERV, who are an AvePoint partner based in Sweden. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Christian. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I'm excited on this topic because this is having been in the Microsoft ecosystem for many, many years, and of course, some people may know me through the community. For many years, was involved in directly creating and marketing migration and administration tools. Backup is a topic that I'm newer to. Like, I knew the value of the importance of that, but today we're going to be discussing the role of backup and restore in business continuity. So important to understand why we're doing backup. So maybe that's the best place to start. Robert, why do we need backup?
So here's the biggest issue or most common misunderstanding when it comes to backup. It is totally wrong focus. So hear me out, Christian. What is the reason why you're doing backup of your data or your company's data?
I'm just trying to secure it if something bad happens to it, that I can get access to it again. Right.
So the main thing with backup is the restore, and hence we need to focus on restore capabilities and the ability to bring our data back. More importantly, getting our business services fully operational and fully functional for our companies and functions and features and government stuff like that. So that's the biggest part. And from that, when it comes to building those and understanding the restore concept, we need to start talking about business continuity. How can we plan for continuity within our business, keeping our business alive due to different impacts that we can identify by doing a business impact analysis, or a BIA, as it also is called. So,
that's something that I ran into while I was at Microsoft and working with the engineering team with the early version of what is now Office 365 and part of Microsoft 365 was, was the recovery, the business continuity aspect of the servers. And so it wasn't just enough with a lot of our customers and those initial large enterprises that were customers. They say, hey, it's not good enough that the servers are up and running and we have access to the tools, but what about our data? How long is it going to take until my business is back up and running as if nothing happened with minimal loss? So that's that definition of business continuity that stuck in my mind. To your point, it's not just about having the backup. How quickly can I get to the backup? Because the SLA says, hey, within 48 hours, that's not good enough.
No, that was what we did back, way back in the 80s, right? When, everything on tape was super fast, right? That was the thing. But now from a cloud perspective, so go just back like 10 years. What happened? Look at the evolution of the cloud. So more and more companies are understanding that, the cloud adoption journey, that is a good part, right? But looking from the perspective of, what is my responsibility as a company, right? I'm purchasing SaaS services left and right, but do I have some kind of responsibility including this? Well, here's the thing. If we go back and look at the actual, chart that Microsoft has regarding the shared responsibilities within their SaaS services. Sorry, I'm Swedish. I'm allowed to mispronounce you, sir. Well, so looking at those charts and that information, it clearly states that, all the accounts, the identities, the devices, and more importantly, the data and the information, that is your responsibility, right? So you need to figure out not just to back up this, but how should I restore that in the manners that my RTO, recovery time objectives, RPO, recovery point objective, and most importantly, the RLOs, recovery level objectives, are met according to a company's service level agreement for business service.
You've covered some of this, and I kind of mix it up, the questions I have outlined for you, but it's because you have a lot of companies that say, it's like, well, Microsoft provides a baseline backup, service, Azure, like I'm backed up to Azure. So what is actually provided and what is actually needed from a third-party standpoint? And let me preface that by saying that, for a long time, for many years, Forrester, Gartner, the other main analyst firms have been saying, no, you need to have a third-party backup solution in place.
Sure.
And you'll kind of get into that, the differences with Azure. And it's only just the last couple of years that Microsoft has made some investments in backup solutions and have really been promoting the third-party partner ecosystem for these solutions.
Sure.
So what is provided in Azure and what's missing? What's the gap?
So here's the thing. There are some capabilities within, well, let's just take this in two parts. Microsoft 365, you need to add backup and restore capabilities for that. When we go over here and talk about Azure in an infrastructure and the other PaaS and SaaS services that resides within them, the biggest thing you need to, get your head around is it good enough for my recovery time objectives? Is it, because there are some services within Azure when it comes to those, core big components like VMs, like storage and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of, capabilities missing. And that's a good part about the third-party ecosystem that, as for AvePoint, they're so into developing and creating values, great values when it comes to restore capabilities. So as quickly as Microsoft unlocks those APIs or capabilities for third-party hooks in, AvePoint is already there. We've seen that a lot of times. So natively within Microsoft, or in Azure, there's both restore capability and some, DR also. But from backup and restore capability, it could be good enough. My best suggestion is to try it out and build your restore scenario and do your restore tests, because that's also a big thing that a lot of companies are missing, Christian. Not only, the small companies. As sumNERV, we are global, so we're doing business continuity and building disaster recovery concepts, restore plans according to business continuity. And it could be large enterprises that need help with this, and small companies also, because they only back up data. They never try the restore. We did a full-blown, like back in the days, a full-blown Active Directory restore for this huge telecom company. And what we found out was they have been backed up data that was corrupted for 4 years. So, and the thing is,
well, let me ask you, did they find that out? Did they have a failure? And then we went to restore that, they found that they had bad data? Or did they find that out before they had a major outage?
They found that out before, because we suggested that, hey guys, you know what? Let's do a restore test. Let's see that we can, get that services back up and running. That's core IT infrastructure service that has those, dependencies on your business services. And that's also the key importance of doing restore tests. How do you know, Christian, that your data that you have backed up is okay? You don't. Right. If you had a green checkbox in a console, you shouldn't go, hey, everything's good. What you should do is, okay, let's try this out. And according, like monthly, quarterly, half year, what kind of interval you want to do it, do the restore tests. And according to the business continuity concept, all services that you have, if we skip the IT core infrastructure services, right? We skip those. And then we look at the actual business services, those that either, generate revenue or has large impact on an enterprise level, or your, those crown jewels of your enterprise. Those are the A classified services. And then you have the B and the C, and that's what you should start, right? And those services have dependencies internally and externally. And you need to map those out, because there's no time when it comes to when you have a major outage or an impact on your business. There's no time to Google.
Right.
Time is not your friend.
What I hear the most common scenario of the need for it is because we have much more granular backup and restore needs. And you just described something. You have different aspects of your business. You have different workloads. You have Teams, you have SharePoint, you have maybe file shares that have been migrated over, but the SLA that you need to have, the restore time to restore
Yeah.
on old file share data, on other backed up tape storage is much lower bar than those that are the high frequency, the used daily. Like we need a 2-hour window, a 4-hour window for restore or whatever that thing is.
Yeah.
And if you are allowing it, whatever your backup solution is, if you are applying the same rules across all the data and all those workloads, you're likely going to fail on some of those SLAs.
Yep.
And of course, this is also important. And I know that you as a partner with AvePoint, so you provide the services, you work with MSPs, you work with end user customers. And so, and each of them have, based on their industry, based on their geography, they might have different rules and different standards and guidelines that they need to be able to be back and restore to.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Because as you mentioned, all businesses are, they're different. They have different needs. They're different expectations, right? So that's why it's so important when we talk about restores and go into the actual concept of restore capabilities, the RLO, recovery level objectives. So if you want to, let's take Teams, right? Or SharePoint group. Let's take that. So if you want to do a restore, depending on your BI, your business impact analysis from the BCP concept. So what's happened? We lost maybe the entire site or the entire SharePoint group or whatever. So the majority of the different backup vendors out there, they can do a restore when it comes to like the entire team, right? But do you really want that? Probably yes, somehow, but you should look into, a more depth in granularity when it comes to, restoring perhaps just the app within Teams or a file or it's important to, the most common mistake when it comes to companies going out there and do their research of different backup vendors is they look at backup. They don't look at the actual, feature, function, or the essence of the software. They're looking at, we want to back this up. I can provide a PowerShell script for like everyone that backs stuff up. You will not be able to restore it, but it's backed up. So instead, look at the actual restore concepts. What do we need? What do we got?
Yeah. Well, with AvePoint's announcement, just recently came out that our expansion of our cloud backup to include Azure. So I know a lot of partners very excited about that. I mean, as I'm talking with prospective partners and talking with MSPs at different events, and one of the first questions they would ask me is like, "Oh, it's great that you have this backup. It's really robust into these workloads like SharePoint and Teams and elsewhere." Is like, do you also support Azure? And until the last week or so, the answer was no, not currently. So there's a lot of excitement, behind this now that we have the capability. So what does that mean to you as a partner?
As a partner for me, I can go out to my clients, my MSPs global, and say, hey guys, you know what? Here's the software that we can use. Here's a solution. Here's a restore capability that you can provide to your end clients that actually has great RTO. So here's the big difference when it comes to Microsoft natively. It's slow, really slow. It works-ish, but it's slow. So if you want to have restore capabilities or, your SLAs are this and that according to hours, minutes, or whatever, you should work with a vendor that provides you those RTOs. And of course, the level of resource also. That's important. But the cool part that I think is the Azure Active Directory backup and restore capabilities, because that is really filling a gap on the market. And it's so nice to have that.
Well, the other side to all this too is that, and I know that you guys do a lot from a risk management, from a security standpoint. That, and sometimes you don't think of, backup as being, at the forefront of the security discussion, but it really is. So prior to joining AvePoint a year and a half ago, 2 of my clients had breaches and had data losses. One of them that had a complete backup and restore plan in place, and they lost very little data. The other one that had just purchased a solution and not yet done it, not yet deployed it. Like literally they were on the verge of that, and they ended up paying for the ransomware because they had no other chance.
Sure.
No other choice.
Yeah. And we see that a lot also. And when it comes to, the attacks, that we see nowadays, they're ugly, right? They're really ugly. Some of them are ransomware perspective, like, we want to have ransom to, get your data back. But there are a lot of, let's say, rogue attacks also, where the key, thing is just to go in and destroy. And you can add so much security on your Microsoft 365 tenant. Of course, still we see people that does not have multi-factor authentication enabled to this day, right?
Yeah.
And still there are people, unfortunately, that has MFA enabled, and still the users are clicking OK, but they're not doing the login. They're not doing so. We need to educate. The companies need to educate their users also. If you're not by a computer, if you're not conducting this login, don't press allow, right? So there's been some attacks where actually, the people had got in and deleted like the entire data, all the retention policies, litigation hold, all that. And that company did not have a backup of 365 because they thought that, we can fix that with, some policies, litigation hold, retention, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
No. So everything was lost. So it's a really, this is actually an insurance, right? So you need to be ensured that you can get your data back because that's the gold of your company, right? Literally, it is.
Yeah.
And that is also why it's so good that we now can provide restore capabilities that differentiates from what Microsoft has in the recycler bin, 30 days in Azure AD. We can provide the user, the group with also the users where the user has a membership of different groups, service app, enterprise apps. It's a big yes on the market for this right now. So this is really, really good.
Well, Robert, really appreciate you taking the time today. And obviously, if any of you watching have any questions, Robert knows the AvePoint applications, has been working in this space for a long time. You're like an 11 or 12 time MVP in this space. So you've been in the ecosystem for a long time.
Yeah.
And I always like to point out, like, MVPs are very approachable people. So feel free, if you've got questions, reach out to Robert, and we've got all his social connections within the blog post and out in YouTube as well. So definitely reach out and connect with him if you have questions. And sumNERV, I know, will be happy to talk to you about whether you're a partner and have customers, or you are just a company, whether small, medium, or enterprise. They're happy to work with you and talk to you about what they can provide there as well. So, absolutely. Robert, really, thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having me. Have a nice day now.
And for all of you, if you've not already done so, please subscribe to the Office 365 Hours. You'll just get the notifications. We don't spam you with other stuff. It's just about the reminders for the shows, which are always on the first and third Wednesday of every month, always at 11 a.m. Eastern. And so hope to see you at the next one. And thanks for watching.